Welcome to part 3 of our webinar series on capital campaigns, The Green to Dream. This is the third part where we're going to talk about campaign planning and management. And you'll remember that the first two parts involved pre-campaign preparation, and then part 2, the feasibility study. I'm Peter Pearson, and I am a consultant with Library Strategies.
I'm Karen Rose. I'm also a consultant with Library Strategies. So after you've gotten the green light from your feasibility study that it's time to go ahead and start planning a capital campaign, there's a lot of activities and preparation. The first is to recruit your campaign chair or chairs and your committee. And as we mentioned, those names were revealed in the feasibility study. We find that people will talk about who's most recognized, who they perceive could be the best champion and the best leader for a capital campaign. So those are the folks that you will want to reach out to first. And then typically you involve the campaign chair or chairs in the recruitment of your final committee. Next, you'll want to develop a campaign budget. It costs money to make money. And so establishing a budget is an important step. We recommend that your campaign budget reflect 5 to 7% of your campaign goal. And by the way, those costs can be folded into the campaign goal. That's common practice. You can be transparent about that. It's industry standard. Next, you need to define campaign roles. What is the role of the board? What is the role of the campaign committee? What is the role of your foundation staff? We'll get into that in a little bit. Also, you'll need to confirm processes and communications. How often will the committee meet? How will they report progress? How will you coordinate reporting? And as gifts come in, how does that the processes for recording and campaign stewardship occur? During this time, you'll also want to start writing your case statement. We'll talk a little bit more about what that involves, but typically it is the whole case for giving, why it's important to give to your library. And you'll want to create that in print piece and in digital form, so there's a little bit of prep time that you'll need to prepare for to get those collateral pieces printed. And finally, although we hope your board is experienced in fundraising, there may be the need to do some solicitation training, which simply identifies proper strategies and approaches for making that actual ask.
Probably the most important thing to get your campaign off on the right start is identifying the right campaign chair. The right campaign chair is going to make all the difference in the world to achieving your goal. First, you're looking for someone who is passionate. We want them to be passionate about the library and about this special project. We indicated that in the feasibility study, oftentimes we uncover people who haven't really been exposed to the library before, and through this process of the feasibility study, they start to understand the importance of the library in the community. So oftentimes we find that a campaign chair may not have been affiliated with you prior to the feasibility study. So don't assume that this person has to be someone from within your organization. We also want someone who is highly respected and visible. This is an incredibly important trait because this person has to be a door opener. People have to say, if John Jones is affiliated with the library, I want to listen to what they've got to say. It's going to be time consuming, and so you want someone who's got the available time. Many times people who are heavily involved in their businesses don't have quite as much time to devote to these types of projects. So oftentimes we see people who are retired or working more part-time who are in these roles. The time amount shouldn't be underestimated. They need to be a disciplined and well-organized individual. We have a lot of balls in the air during most of these capital campaigns with solicitations going on constantly. And a connection, of course, to potential donors would be critical. If this person is someone who maybe knows some of your key donors already, all the better. And we do want this person to make a notable gift to the campaign. It's not essential that the chair give the largest gift to the campaign, but clearly the chair needs to give a gift that's going to be recognized as being a significant capital campaign gift. And then last, and again, very important, is this person has to actually be willing to ask people to make a contribution. They're doing more than just opening the doors. They actually are going to be the person who will make the final ask in many cases. So now that you've got your chair in place, you also need to have a great capital campaign committee. And once again, these are individuals who may not have been a part of your organization previously, but we typically find that if you've got a board of directors for a library foundation, that several of those members will be on the capital campaign committee. But oftentimes we recruit many more who haven't been a part of you before. So a group of 8 to 10 would typically be a good-sized capital campaign committee. And just like your chair, these are individuals that need to be well connected in the community. They need to be respected leaders and philanthropists who themselves will be able to give a significant gift to the campaign. And like the chair, they need to be willing to actually make the ask.
While you're recruiting your committee, you'll also be wanting to develop your case statement. Why is it important to give to the library? Why the library and why now? Those concepts need to be developed and put into a form that can be presented to your potential donors. It's important that you include renderings of the potential of the building and what will happen in the building. It's important to recognize that lives will change and that this is about making a big impact on future generations, on teens, on everyone in the community. So those sort of feelings and emotions need to be expressed in the case statement. It needs to be visually appealing. There also needs to be financial details about the campaign itself, including the cost of the project itself, the public funding that's made available, and the private goal that we're seeking. The case statement can also express naming opportunities. People are often very interested in what are naming opportunities. It could be the building itself, and you need to make sure that that is permissible by the city or the county. And you also can name rooms. More and more, the case statement is also being expressed in digital form. So if you want to leave either a CD or a video with a potential donor, that's an option, as well as your print piece. It's also very important to clarify and make sure everyone understands roles and responsibilities. As Peter mentioned, the chair is, of course, the lead for your campaign. He or she is the spokesperson, the one that does most of the expression in the community about the campaign. They make the presentations. The committee is responsible for solicitation and, of course, supporting anything that the chair needs. We typically recommend that solicitation occurs in pairs, so that there might be 2 of the committee members, maybe with the chair, maybe not, maybe with the library staff or library director, to make those solicitation calls. But that's their primary role in the campaign. Library staff is not typically involved in the campaign per se. They are, however, going to be answering questions. They will be providing excellent customer service as people maybe enter the library for their first time or have a new engagement with the library. So they need to be aware of the campaign and what their role in it is. And the role of the library director is very important in a campaign. They're the content holder. They provide information to both the committee and even to potential donors. Sometimes direct questions will be made to the director. They need to be available and comfortable with that. They aren't making an ask, but they are providing information. Sometimes a solicitor may want to bring the library director with them to simply provide information and context. The Friends group is maybe perhaps not involved in the campaign itself, but is helping to increase visibility of the project, of the library. They're the library champions out in the community. Your foundation staff and board, some of the board might be involved, and the staff might be involved with the campaign on the campaign committee. But if they're not, they need to still provide support and advocacy and visibility for the library. The Board of Trustees, of course, is simply there, is providing, the Board of Trustees is also probably more visible. They will be also library champions in the community, may or may not be involved with fundraising unless, of course, they're asked. We also recommend that the campaign consider at least a part-time administrative position to manage the day-to-day administrative roles of managing the campaign, of processing the gifts that come in and the pledges, sending out the thank yous, reporting for the committee. There's a lot of administrative functions that we recommend you actually hire someone to perform rather than relying on a volunteer or on library staff. Sometimes that staff, the administrative role is embedded in the foundation. Sometimes it could be on the library staff. And finally, campaign counsel. Of course, we do provide campaign counsel, and we recommend it, providing guidance and direction to the committee, training if it is required again. There's a lot of, potentially there's bumps in the road in campaigns. A library council can provide recommendations. We've probably seen them all. We've seen a lot of what your potential road bumps might be, and we can provide guidance in how to address those. Campaign council is also important to keep the momentum going on the campaigns. They can get to be a year or a year and a half long, and people can get weary. So the council is that outside person that helps keep that momentum and the reporting and the enthusiasm going for the campaign, in addition to the chair.
So we talked about two different phases to every capital campaign. We have a quiet phase, and then there's the public phase. Let's talk about the quiet phase first, because that's the phase that's really most important to the success of the campaign. So initially, the important thing is that you have to find one lead gift to your capital campaign. And that lead gift really has to raise between 15 and 20% of the total goal of the campaign. We're looking for this in our feasibility study interviews. And so if we're not able to find that lead gift, we often recommend that your goal might be too high. So for instance, if you're trying to raise $100,000, it's not going to happen by raising $1,100 gifts. That's just not a realistic approach to fundraising. Fundraising relies on larger, significant gifts to get you to your goal. The total amount of money that you're going to raise in the quiet phase, and this is a number that's changed dramatically over the last 10 years, we believe that you need to raise 90 to 95% of your entire goal in the quiet phase of the campaign. As I said, that number's changed dramatically. It used to be closer to 2/3, 60 to 65%. But we've seen a dramatic shift here in the last few years since the recession for the number of major gifts that it takes to get you to your goal. The solicitations in the quiet phase are all going to be personalized. This is not going to be a direct mail campaign. This is going to be every single request for a contribution to this campaign during this phase will be done with your capital campaign committee members and if you have capital campaign staff. This is a very personalized approach to fundraising, and we always know that the more personalized your fundraising is, the more effective it is, and the larger the gifts. It's tempting sometimes when someone offers a small gift early on because they're hearing about the campaign and got excited, but we really don't want to have small gifts come in. If somebody sees in the early phase of your campaign that $1,000 gifts are being made, it really lowers their expectation for what a quiet phase gift needs to be. We would recommend that in most capital campaigns, you're not looking at gifts under $25,000 to $50,000 in this early phase of the campaign. And it's also important to realize that gifts made in the quiet phase, of course, are larger and therefore may require being paid out over 3 to 5 years. You need to keep that timeline in mind in case you need to do something in the way of bridge funding for campaign pledges that won't be coming in for several years. So the public phase, the final 5 to 10% of your goal is always probably the most difficult to raise, and it comes through broad-based solicitations. It is going to be a direct mail campaign, so you may be mailing out thousands of solicitations in this phase. You need to develop a different type of fundraising piece to send out, because obviously you're not going to send the more elaborate pieces that you use in solicitations during the quiet phase. This is going to be the one that puts you over your goal, hopefully. You may involve social media. You might involve some special events and special awareness to get the word out for this portion of the campaign.
So once you've achieved your goal or surpassed it, it's time to celebrate with your community. So we really recommend that you are very outward and open with your celebration. Community events, open houses, donor thanks and recognition in the form of press releases, donor walls, all kinds of announcements, and recognition of the support that you receive from the community. Once the campaign is over, you're not done. Keep fundraising. We think it's very important that you keep your community engaged with your library. We recommend that you keep fundraising into the future with annual appeals, special projects, planned giving, endowment giving, and ongoing communication engagement, whether that's special events or special invite-only events for some of your major donors. Keep nurturing those relationships over time. They will continue to be supporting you. They may support you for something big in the future. It's very important to keep those relationships strong. This concludes the final part of our series on capital campaigns. Thank you for joining us. If you are anticipating a capital campaign and would like to reach out to us, please go to our website, librarystrategiesconsulting.org. You'll also find other resources, including a book that we wrote called Beyond Book Sales, a complete guide to raising real money for your library. This book is soup to nuts on raising funds for capital campaigns as well as operating and special projects.
Thanks so much for watching our series of webinars on capital campaigns. Look for new webinar topics on our website.